Hi, hello everyone. My name is Daniel Minton, and this is my presentation over Diego Rivera. Um, Diego Rivera was actually one of the most well-known artists throughout the 20th century, not only in Mexican history and art, but also just American history and art, and just all different other cultures and countries, and just art history in general. Because he was actually all like known all throughout the world, just because he did so many different art pieces in so many different parts of the world and visited so many different parts of the world throughout his time. He was born December 8th in 1886 in Guanajuato, Mexico. He actually had a twin brother named Carlos, but sadly at age 2 Carlos had died, and so it was just left with him, his mom and his dad. His mother's name was Maria and his father's name was Diego. So his father was actually Diego Sr. and Diego was Diego Jr. So, and at age 3 is actually, at age 3, a very young age, is when Diego started really finding his taste and just really getting into art. He really, at such a young age, he was picking up things and just doing already things 3-year-olds should not be doing at all. And his father actually had to build him his own art studio because he could not stop Diego from painting murals all over the walls and just writing all over the walls. So his father literally actually had to make him his own art studio whenever Diego was just a young boy. At age 10, he went to study art and further his education in art at San Carlos Academy of Fine Arts, which was also in Mexico. He got a scholarship to actually go to the school, which was, very, very achievable because he was only 10 years old at the time, and that's something not a lot of kids were doing, and you don't see that a lot very often. But he was taught and influenced by Jose Pesedo, and he was actually a great, just a big influencer for Diego, because this is where Diego really started to learn just much more about art in his own style, and this was going to further push him on it in the future to do what Diego did and how he became so creative with his art. So he was actually also known for being a ladies' man. He was married 5 times total, but only to 4 different women. He had 2 daughters as well, and the 2 daughters were with his first marriage, but his most known marriage was with a famous artist named Frida Kahlo. And as I said earlier, he was married a total of 5 times to 4 different women. He was married to Frida twice, and he was married to her for the longest time, and that's why their marriage was most known. So, in 1907, at age 21, he actually traveled and moved all the way to Europe to further his education and his studies in art. This is where he actually met his first wife and also met Frida. But while he was in Europe, he was influenced by many, many different artists and famous artists, including Pablo Picasso and Georges Barbeque. They were 2 very influential artists at the time and very just knowledgeable artists. And this is where Diego was actually able to also just gain more knowledge and ideas to further create his own style and his unique style, which is what he did. This is also the time whenever Diego really started developing his political views, which also helped influence his art. At the time whenever he moved to Europe, he was introduced with a lot of the Communist Party and a lot of communist ideologists and just people that thought that way. So he himself actually took on those views, and he was an activist for the Communist Party. In 1917, he abandoned his Cubic style, and in 1921, he actually returned to Mexico with his partner, David Alfredo Cinqueros. He went back to Mexico to create a new international art and just open up and spark the ideas of just the Mexican citizens and just encourage them and influence them and inspire them with his art. So he actually went back there, and in 1923 is when he started the creation of his first mural. And this is where he became so unique and just different from other people, because he did what nobody else did, and that was murals. We'll talk about it later, but in my next section I'm going to talk about three different paintings or murals, I could say, paintings and murals that Diego had, and they were just very, very very popular paintings at the time, and just completely, as I said, completely different and just open to anyone to see at the time. So the first painting I'm going to talk about is the history of Mexico, and the history of Mexico is actually located in the National Government Palace in Mexico City. He started this painting in 1929, but it actually took him 6 total years, and it wasn't until 1935 when he actually finished the painting. But throughout the painting, it literally describes the history of Mexico from before, at the start, whenever Mexico wasn't even named or called Mexico. It starts with the Aztec warriors and the Aztec Indians, and whenever the Spaniards came and took over, and how just everything changed and how everything developed. It also goes on to really like stick up for the working class and just soldiers, and it shows just a lot of controversial things throughout Mexico and wars that happened throughout Mexico, and it just shows the heart and the soul of the Mexican people. It also shows some of his political views as well in this painting, but throughout this painting you can see so much little detail, and he uses very, very bold and bright colors, as you can see that pop out. There's so many things that stick out in this painting, as well as, just as I said earlier, the colors and the brightness and how detailed every single little part of it is. So he used fresco for this painting as well. And fresco art was a art that was really not very well known of until Diego picked it up and actually completely just excelled in it and made it his own, really. So he used fresco as the way of painting. And also in this next painting he used fresco as well. This painting is called Man at the Crossroads, and it's probably one of Diego's most controversial paintings that he had. It was located in the Rockefeller Center in New York City, and he created and actually finished this painting in 1934. This painting was so controversial because at the time it was the Cold War, and Russia and America were butting heads pretty bad, and there was just a lot of tension going on between the two countries, our country and their country. So this painting was actually taken down because a lot of the American people did not appreciate it because of what it stood for, which was communism, and we are a democracy. So, and throughout this painting too, as you can see, is he uses again very, very bold and bright colors that really pop out to the eye. He uses like very, very nice and smooth lines that are very detailed within his painting and picture as well. And as I mentioned earlier, he did use fresco art for this mural as well. So the last mural I'd like to talk about was actually not a mural. It was an oil on canvas, and it was called the Symbolic Landscape. It was created in 1940, and it was created because at the time Diego was in a depression, honestly, over his wife Frida. He was sad at the time, and this was a landscape that he had seen in the past that he thought was beautiful and that he could go back on and just look at and be at peace for a little bit while he was struggling throughout the time. So we actually ended up drawing it and making it another masterpiece of his. And throughout it, you can just see a tree rooted into the ground, and you can see all the vivid and crooked lines that he has, very structured in detail with yet again bold and bright colors. And you can see the shading that he has here on the rocks. And as I said, most of the time he had used his own style that he really developed and created, which was fresco. But on this, he did use an oil on canvas paint. So, in the next section, I'm going to talk about Diego's contributions to the world, to the art world, and just society in general, and what he was known for and the legacy he left behind. So, as I said earlier, he was very well known for his development of fresco art. He actually had created fresco art, and not created fresco art, but he really developed fresco art and kind of made it his own. So he will always forever be known for developing fresco art and making it what it is now today. He developed new modern imagery for Mexican identity and society. Mexicans were very inspired by his art, especially the working class. He put his work out for people and not money. So he was one of the first artists to ever do that, to where everyone, the public eye, could view his art, and it was really done for the people, not for the money. So he introduced his work to the everyday human life, as I said, and just really was known for that, and it really brought that new way of art and just thinking to the world. And people really never could see or express art in those ways until then, for free especially. He was the first artist to represent the working class and indigenous cultures, as well as he was the first to incorporate politics into his art. He changed America's views on art too as a total as well. As I said earlier, he was known for his murals as well, but during the Great Depression, Diego actually made a mural about the Ford industry and about the working class, American citizens working in factories, and it was a very controversial topic over Ford industry, but actually Henry Ford's son said, "Do not take this mural down," because it had some truth to it at the time, and because the factory life was a very, very tough and rough life. So he stood up for Americans in somewhat in ways that people really did appreciate and inspire, except for just a lot of people just did really not go with his ideas on politics and his views on that. So, and up until this day, his style will always and continue to remain to be a huge influence in American art and just art history in general that is used all throughout the world. He impacted so many with his ideas in fresco art and just being able to actually make murals. As I said, he literally changed the way art was viewed for everybody because he put his art out for free to the public eye, to the public person, to the everyday life. And so this is why Diego Rivera will forever and always be known as one of the most famous and notorious artists of the 20th century and all time, not only in Mexican art, but in American art and art history and as a total. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.